Stasa23 here, and today we have the Vosteed Grind. This is a brand new model for Vosteed. They're actually on pre-order right now on their site, and I wanted to get this video out before they actually drop because they're probably going to sell out quick like all the Vosteeds. These are coming in at $75. You can get it in this variation with the black Frag micarta. It's contoured micarta, stonewash flats, and this one is a 0 ground Scandi on it. In 154 cm steel. You can also get it in this exact variation with the green Frag micarta, or you can get it with this same exact variation with smooth contour micarta in black or green. You can also, if you don't want a full Scandi, you know, that just means that the primary grind is basically like it's a 0 grind, starts from the top right here and goes all the way to the end, forming your apex. Now, if you want it to be a little bit stronger, you can get the version that is a micro beveled Scandi grind, just meaning it's got the same grind right here, but then it has a very small micro bevel. Those are a little quicker to sharpen because you don't have as much material to remove. Like when you're sharpening a Scandi, you have to remove, material from all this, especially if you get edge damage. It's going to take you a much longer time than, say, if you had a micro bevel. Now, it might not perform as good as this in wood, per se. I don't know. I'm not a bushcrafter. But it's going to be easier to hold that angle because you can lay it on the stone, and whenever it lays flat, once you lay it on the primary, on your flat and then rock it forward, whenever it catches on there, it's easier to hold that angle, but it's going to take a little bit longer, like I said, because you have more material to remove. Let's get some quick specs out of the way. You have a total length of 7.6 inches, so a more medium-sized knife. Blade length of 3.2 inches. A grip area from here to the back right here of 3.5 inches. If you want to go all the way up here to the front, you got 3.8 inches. Handle scale thickness from here to here of 0.50, so right at that average marker. And you have a blade stock thickness on this one at 0.12 inches. So a closer look at this. Like I said, you have a Scandi ground drop point right here. Very, very attractive looking. Dual fullers for added aesthetic, and I'm sure to balance the knife out. Let's see. Yeah, right there in that choil where it needs to be. You have a very, very needle-like point right there for doing precision cutting and detailed work and piercing into the bag of potato chips. There's no jimping up top, but I didn't find a need for it. You do have dual thumb studs for deployment, and you do have a nice sharpening choil cut in right here. Now, this is probably, I think, the first Scandi ground knife that I've actually reviewed on the channel. So I'm interested to see how it performs and how that apex holds up through all the cutting. So why don't we find that out? This knife came probably sharpest out of box than any production knife that I've gotten in a while, especially budget knives. And even though this isn't the type of knife that I would do normal EDC tasks with, it is blasting through this cardboard so effortlessly. I wish y'all could feel how smoothly it's going through it and how easily it's going through it. Thicker stuff may give it some issues, but not this stuff. Now we're just testing the ergos and that edge on this piece of birch, and I know already that it's going to be a wood hog, and it most certainly is. I mean, it wants to bite, and it wants to bite quickly. Mainly testing the ergos. And one thing I will say is that the Frag pattern, whenever you're doing really, really heavy cutting, is not the most comfortable, but they do offer it in smooth micarta as well. And I also did feel the top of that clip whenever I was really bearing down into the wood. Not enough to where I felt like I had to throw a glove on, but it was definitely noticeable. And if I was going to be doing this type of work, I would have went with the smooth micarta. But man, that sharp edge it grabs into the wood immediately. And of course, everybody knows the Scandi grind is excellent for wood, and that it is. This piece of wood had a lot of knots in it, so I couldn't really get, something going nicely, but it was fun to use, and I was just showing how deep it wanted to go into that wood. Definitely A++ on this one. Ergos, give it about a B- just because of the Frag pattern. because this being a drop point, it's easy to get that point down into what you're cutting. Doing drag cuts was just stupid easy. And I'm super amazed on how I'm push cutting 90% of this material. Easiest cutting I've ever done with this type of stuff. Now I'm hoping that that edge can hold up, because my experience with Scandi ground knives is that, you know, very fine edge. If you have a 0 ground knife, sometimes the apex can't hold up to some of, you know, the harder cutting. And we'll see at the end of all this, but just watch this. I slow it down on the end of, I think, the rope, but the aggression this edge has is outstanding, and so far I am absolutely loving the way this thing's performing, especially if it can hold up. That's going to be the key. Hopefully we don't have any, you know, bad edge damage or anything, but we'll see. Now we move on to the 1/2-inch sisal rope cutting, and right away I just want you to watch how quickly and easily it's going through this rope. I am in awe on how easy it is. No pressure hardly. All of it's push cutting, and it's very minimal force. You can see I'm just pushing that rope. I usually, you know, cut a few and then swipe it off, but I just want y'all to see how fast. I slow it down toward the end so you can really get an idea of how easily it's going through. I end up making 55 cuts till we run out of rope, and no doubt I could have done way more. So definitely impressed, especially if that edge has held up. You know, there's no major damage to the apex. And if you're worried about that, they do have a micro beveled version. So definitely cool to see it could handle all this. All right, now let's check that edge after all that cutting. It still feels sharp. It's got a few little minor hang-ups. If you cut fast, you won't even notice them, but you can tell there's some, watch, you'll see. Got one right there. And I think one right when you start cutting. Just that one. Now there's two hang-ups. You can kind of see right there's one. And there's one back here that I can see right in this area. But overall, I know I could hit it up on a strop and make it probably 10 times better, or hit it on one of my fine stones. All right, let's close it up and take a look at the action. Like I said, you have dual thumb studs for deployment, and you have a reversible pocket clip with a crossbar lock. So it's completely ambidextrous, and it's easy to deploy and disengage that lock left-handed, just like it is right-handed, because the thumb studs stick out the same. They got some nice texture on those thumb studs. They're comfortable. They grab a hold of the thumb nicely, and you can easily reverse flick it as well. Now, being that this is a crossbar lock, and it has the little holes, so you can adjust the tension on the spring, on the Omega springs, just like the clutch lock. You can adjust how hard it comes, you know, how tough it is to open and close, and how hard it is to pull that spring back. Right now I have mine dialed on the middle spring hole, and I think I prefer the full strength on it, because it is going to break in some, and if you want it to be a little snappier, you're going to want to have that full tension of that Omega spring. So I would leave it like it is. At least that's the way I like it. And the knife is riding on ceramic ball bearings, so it's super smooth once you release that crossbar lock very nicely. If you wanted to, you could pull back the crossbar lock and open it like that. That's always an option with the crossbar lock. Let's close it up and take a look at these scales. Really nice looking frag pattern cut into this black micarta, and they are contoured. One thing I was kind of worried about, and it was kind of true, that the frag, being that it's cut out on the sides and in this portion right here, that it could be uncomfortable when using it. Now, whenever I initially grabbed this, I was like, oh, that's going to be a nightmare, especially right in this area where those frag points end. But whenever I was cutting, the frag didn't bother me as much. I did start to feel it quite a bit once I was really forcing down into the wood. And if that's something you're concerned about, just get the smooth micarta. That one should lock you in pretty nicely, because you have a decent enough choil right there to lock you in, keep you from sliding forward. The only other thing I noticed when I started pushing the hardest I could into the wood is that the top of this pocket clip was starting to dig into my hand. Other than that, you know, normal duty, you know, if you're just trying to make some fine curls or something like that, it's not going to be an issue. But something I did want to state. Your hardware on the pivot is T8 and T8 on the body screws, T6 on the clip screws. The clip has been inset into the micarta and the screws are also inset. And you have a spot, like I said, for left-handed carry. It's a deep carry clip. You don't have a ton of room underneath there, but I haven't had a problem with it fitting my thicker jeans. Now, this is sitting on top of that frag pattern, so it could be a pocket destroyer. Let's check it out in the pocket. Now, if you're worried about it being a pocket shredder, then get the smooth contour. That'll solve that issue, but you can hear it. Watch this. It's definitely causing some extra friction on the frag. It completely disappears and it hugs the side of the pocket nicely. No flipper tab or anything to get in the way of your hand. Let's take a look at the inside. As you can see, you do have some heavy skeletonization on the top and bottom for weight relief. Let's check it out on the scale. First off, in grams, 102.5 grams and 3.61 ounces. Awesome. Now, let's take a look at the lock. It's a crossbar lock, no side to side, no up and down. Now, I get a minor rock, kind of like a Benchmade, just because of that crossbar lock sitting on top of the tang, kind of sliding back and forth. Nothing, I have no problems with this disengaging or anything. Very solid lockup, nicely done. I like the crossbar lock as far as strength goes. Now for some quick size comparisons between two Vosteeds, we have the Nightshade TH and the Corgi. It's a little bit bigger than both of those, closer to the Nightshade. Two good size references, the Spyderco Tenacious and the Sencut Sashi. The Sashi is just a hair longer, and I think the Tenacious is just a hair shorter, but very, very good overall and lengthwise. Lastly, with the Ontario Wrap Model 1 and 2, it's just in the middle of those two. All right, now for my nitpicks and complaints. Not much, maybe a little bit more blade here. The bladed handle is a little bit off. You can see you could have added a little bit more in there. And maybe putting a small little chamfer or something right here so this isn't as hard of an angle because of that frag pattern. But overall, I think it's a really good knife, especially if you're looking for a affordable Scandi round knife. This thing held up very, very nicely. Crossbar lock's tough. It's got smooth, snappy action. I love the blade shape. I think it looks good. It's a very lightweight knife. I think me personally, even though I love the look of the frag, I think if I'd have to do it all over again, it would be the smooth black micarta one. I think that one would be just a little bit more comfortable in hand, especially for heavier duty cutting. Now, this one was more than comfortable. I could feel the clip a little bit right here, and I could feel this portion of the frag micarta when I started really bearing down into that wood. But overall, I thought it performed nicely. I thought the edge held up nicely. And like I said, if you're worried about having to sharpen that much of a bevel, then go with the micro beveled Scandi. Now, if you want a wood hog, go with the fully zero ground Scandi, and I think you'll be very happy. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.